Start fights the right way. This is a comment that has been requested from me so many times, so here you are. I went through a lot of my most recent games to research what I was doing right to put momentum in my favor to start a fight, and I also went through those games where I got hit big and how I was able to come back from those. And it's also likely that by the time you're seeing this video that I'm streaming on YouTube. I'm posting this roughly 4 hours before I go live at 12 p.m. PST, noon on the West Coast. So if it's still within that time frame, come join up and ask questions since it might be my last stream for a while. But the big question is, when starting fights, should you box up or should you go for height? Of course, it's a little more nuanced than that, but I'm going to try my best to answer that during this video. To start a fight, the absolute first thing you want to do, no matter what, is get damage on your opponent. It doesn't matter if you are full health and being super aggro, or if you just got hit big and need to heal. You need to get damage. I think it's obvious for the first thing I said, if you're going to full aggro someone, you want to get a piece of damage on them. And we'll circle back to this in a second, but my little tidbit of advice is carry a heavy hitting weapon like a sniper. Although since I'm making this video at the end of the season, it's not completely unlikely that by the time you're watching this, that they got vaulted. I'm not sure, but if they're not in the game by the time you watch this, still use a heavy hitting weapon, whatever it might be, like the deagle, maybe the bow and arrows are back, or maybe it's the railgun, I don't know. But every high kill game I saw from pro players in season 1 and 2, like Mr. Savage, they were always getting a huge health advantage by hitting either a body shot or obviously just a headshot to end the fight. Of course, when I'm making this, snipers are still in the game, so what you want to know about them currently is that each hash mark represents 50 meters. So if they're 100 meters away, aim at the second hash mark. And if next season they do end up getting rid of these, I'll make an updated video explaining how to use whatever the replacement is. But for the second situation where you get hit hard, I think it's even more important to get damage in. If you get hit hard, they are going to try and push your box immediately, and they're going to keep doing it until you either die or they get put into a risky situation. And of course, we don't want to die, so put them into a risky situation. You must get counter damage on them immediately so they back off, giving you that chance to heal. Whereas if you try to heal while they're pushing you, you're not going to be able to get much off, and they're probably just going to end up taking your wall since you're not holding it. The only circumstance in which I say it's okay to start healing before you get that counter damage on them is if the enemy is really far away, or if you're already in a maze of builds where you can kind of weave through it and find a safe place. And that likely happens if they're the third party. But that's how you start a fight from defense. But going back to aggroing when you have full health, how should you do that? After you get some damage on them, you then want to immediately take high ground on them. They will do one of two things. They will either contest you for high ground, and in this case, well, you have a build fight on your hands. You're going to want to be going for cone and wall offs on them to try and win the fight and box them up. But the second situation is they'll just box up on their own after getting hit hard and maybe start to heal. You can now drop down from height, but make sure to be ready to take it back if they edit out. Sometimes enemies will box up as a fake out and then take height immediately once you drop down, so just be ready for this. But oftentimes they won't, and they'll just stay in their box and try to box fight you. In this circumstance, you're not going to be investing all of your mats into a big build fight, meaning you're going to be able to save some. But don't let this make you stingy like Mr. Krabs paying SpongeBob a nickel on the hour. Just because you're not build fighting doesn't mean you shouldn't be spending a good chunk of mats. If you see them boxed up, you need to take away their escape routes so this fight doesn't turn into that massive build fight after the fact, and so you don't die. Pre-piece their escape routes, and sometimes they'll even get antsy and run right into it for a free kill, and other times this will give you a good chance to pressure their other walls to try and either wall replace or just straight up phase in. Although, if when they box up they make a ton of space, you need to be much more careful. Stay on the edge of tiles so you don't get boxed, take safe peeks, and just be ready for a longer fight. Although, what if they do contest you for height and you're now in a build fight? I would genuinely recommend fighting this out until you take significant damage. A lot of people I see will go for height and then immediately give it up if someone contests them. Don't do this. Make it a challenge for them. I know it's risky because in build fights someone can box you easier, and that's obviously because you're not covering every angle, therefore the enemy can get more pieces around you, and this doesn't happen if you box up since you're claiming every piece around you. So unless you're build fighting by full tarping everywhere you go, it will be more risky, but I do think it's worth it. Because if the enemy has more chances to box you, then you obviously have more chances to box your enemy. So I genuinely recommend it if you're the type of person that can box your enemy in, say, a creative 1v1. Now that you have the skills, you just got to bring it into real games. And with that being said, I do want to walk you through some real game examples now of when I chose to start fights and how I do it. And if you're enjoying so far, please drop a like and invest in the channel. Okay, so here we are in Champion and Unreal lobbies. I see footsteps around me, so I know someone is near. I then see this Travis Scott skin, but because I got that sniper, I was able to get a big advantage early on. Side note, when sniping, you always kind of want to wait until they jump because the only direction they have to go after jumping is downwards. Whereas if they're just running on the ground, you don't know if they're about to jump, if they're about to move left or right, so I just like shooting then. I then push in and I'm about to get super aggressive on this guy because I had the health advantage, and then I notice a second set of footsteps. Because of this, I decide to disengage a little bit and just take myself out of the line of sight. My goal was to have those two people fight, but the third party actually pushed me. Like I said earlier, you want to stay on the edge of tiles, even if that means dropping down a little bit. This Billie Eilish skin dropped onto my level, but I was able to side jump while hitting a shot on her, so she was confused at where I was. If I hadn't done this, because I didn't have walls around me or a cone under me, she would have been easily able to piece me up, but I got out of that tile as quickly as I could. From here, she makes the mistake of mantling on my floor, so I'm able to edit her out and kill her. Obviously, when you're in the mantle animation, you cannot shoot, and when you're doing it on someone else's floor, you have a huge disadvantage. She actually had the gatekeeper shotgun, so in this close range scenario, she should have the advantage, but she blundered, giving me the kill. I was then able to use this gatekeeper shotgun to get more damage on the original Travis Scott skin that I was pushing. Earlier in the video, I was discussing whether you should box up after taking damage, and this is a great example of that. I clearly had the health advantage on this guy, but he did hit me for 50 shield and I had a big pot. So yes, while I could have taken this situation to fully heal back up, I knew this guy was weak and I knew I wanted to finish this kill immediately. So the lessons learned in this one is get big damage of course, but also have a mental tally of who is healthier. Yes, I could have healed up, but I knew he was weaker, so that gave me time to push. And the last thing about this one is, it was a Billie Eilish skin, so go pick that up in the item shop using code reidtheninja. But on to the next game. I'm in this tunnel refarming up all my metals so I can be max on all of my mats. But while doing so, I'm being very careful and I'm looking at my map every couple seconds. I realize that the medallion yellow circle is pretty much right on top of me, and I know I'm making a lot of noise down here, so I assumed this guy was going to push me. Because of that, I'm making sure to farm this floor behind the corner of the wall. That way, if he drops down the zip line, I'll be able to see him. But he was actually smart about it. Instead of dropping down the zip line and making a lot of noise, he built his way down. I noticed him right here, but I didn't want him to know that I noticed him, so I kept farming this floor until I was ready to peek, and then I beamed him. From here, he's hit hard, so he's trying to escape. Like I said earlier, you want to get that initial damage on him, which I did, but as we talked about last time, you don't want to get stuck in an animation where you can't shoot, so that's why I did not take the zipline up to follow him. I saw that he fell down, so I made sure to get that floor, and then from there, it was an easy kill. I'm actually not sure if I edited him down or if he got back on that zipline and broke through. Either way, free medallion. Remember, I'm streaming right now at 12 p.m. PST, so if you have any questions, come join the stream since it might be my last one. And obviously, starting fights is very important when playing ranked, and especially tournaments and cash cups. If you're curious about when the new solo victory cups, cash cups, and season 3 FNCS will begin again, click this video right here. I walk you through the whole competitive schedule for the next few months. Use code reidtheninja, and on that note, I am signing off.